as I've reminded us many times, nothing as significant as recognizing the sanctity of life and the primary responsibility of law enforcement in protecting the sanctity of life. And sadly, over the last few weeks, we have experienced some tragedies and loss of life in Portlanders, and I just want to speak to that just briefly. Any loss of life, regardless of the circumstances, is a tragedy for us as a community, and it's something that we should never just have be a statistic or a number, and yet, sometimes these numbers do tell a little bit of a story. I will tell you that over the last couple of days, with the couple of homicides we had over the weekend, as well as some shootings, this brings our total homicide numbers up this year to, where's the number? 41, 41 as to this date, and it was 62 this time last year. So we're still down overall in our homicide incidents at about 37% less. But once again, those numbers are not reflected of the permanency and the loss that those family members and community are experiencing. We also had 34 fatal crashes to this point. And last year, this time, we had 54. So that's a 37% decrease from last year. Once again, that loss of life is a tragedy. On the fatal crashes piece, let's remind ourselves that it's getting darker earlier. We're dealing with inclement weather now, things that impede everybody's visibility, both pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. The transportation system is designed to work effectively and safely when we all mind the rules. So this is something that is almost 100% preventable, and we would ask that all of us continue to strive for that Vision Zero effort around fatal crashes. And finally, I just want to highlight a couple more numbers and then I'll take questions. Overall, in the areas of non-injury shootings, we're down 31% this year. Total overall shootings are down 32%. Homicides by firearms are down 42%. A lot of this good work is not only a testament to the efforts of the Portland Police Bureau, but also our community partners. Our efforts around ceasefire, Office of Violence Prevention, and the many dedicated outreach workers that are partnering with the Portland Police Bureau in very difficult spaces, people with lived experience that are intervening and interdicting behavior before it materializes into violence. Yet we also continue to see a high demand for service. Portland Police Bureau is a under-resourced, understaffed bureau, but it continues to rise to the occasion. So far this year, we are 8% higher on calls for service. Last year, this time, we had 226,978. This year, we're at 246,462, an 8% increase in calls for service. In the previous 2 weeks, we had 5,500 plus calls last week and 5,300 plus calls for service the week before. So I'm immensely proud of the men and women of the Portland Police Bureau that are stretched incredibly thin, managing many complex situations, and yet doing their very best to meet the expectation of Portlanders to provide that safety that each Portlander deserves. And I'll take some questions.
So we know, my story today is about the 4 shootings that took place over the weekend. Have you guys made any arrests in any of those cases thus far?
No, we have not made any arrests at this time. Mike, right? Yeah.
Correct.
No, we have not.
Maybe a message to community members. I mean, I was out speaking to some neighbors in Northeast Portland today who were scared. This is the second time they've had a shooting outside of their house in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe a message to people who...
Yeah, first of all, I just want to recognize the impact that these events have on our community. So it's not just the individuals and those closest to the individuals, but it increases exponentially. And the first responders who have to be on scene, to the neighbors who have to experience this, to the extended even messaging citywide. One of our primary goals in the Police Bureau is to reduce crime and the fear of crime. And although the numbers indicate we are reducing crime, we continue to recognize the legitimacy of the fear of crime. And that's what many people in these neighborhoods, rightfully so, experience. They should know a couple of things. One, we are 100% committed to reaching justice and an investigation, a thorough investigation that hopefully leads to an arrest. Our arrest numbers around homicide this year are at an all-time high. I don't have those right in front of you. Mike can get you them, but we have made a number of arrests, cleared a number of cases, and the detective division, takes each one of these very seriously. And then our officers are always made aware of the fact that, there's a heightened sensitivity to these parts of town that are experiencing this trauma right now. And so we're asking for that, increased vigilance, increased awareness in that area to try and provide that level of safety that Portlanders expect.
And Chief, at this point, you don't believe any of those 4 incidents are connected? Correct?
Not at this time. We don't have information to indicate that they're connected.
How many police officers should the city of Portland have compared to other cities the same size? And then also, what's the stress or what the challenges the Portland police officers who are on the street, what challenges are they having now?
Yeah, so the numbers wise, it really varies, across the country. I mean, you can look at cities of comparable size like Milwaukee, which has north of 15 to 1,700, or Boston, which has closer to 3,000. Those are cities of comparable size population-wise. We have 810 right now. Historically, and the number that I put out last year that we're striving for is to try and get us closer to 1,050 to 1,100 within the next couple of 3 years. That's going to require a lot of aggressive hiring, recruitment, and emphasis on retention, so that's a combination. But we are woefully behind all major cities in the staffing equation, and this comes from years of systematic cutting of the police bureau and a hindrance and a lack of investment. But I'm encouraged to see the mayor continue to make public safety one of his number one priorities, and not just in the area of policing, but he's doing so in the area of shelters. He's doing it in the area of investing in outreach workers, but he also recognizes the importance of a strong public safety system for all of Portlanders. And so that increased amount of investment and attention is absolutely making a difference. Regarding the stress and strain on our officers, it is real. We have a robust wellness program where we encourage officers and provide assistance to any Bureau member that may be struggling under these expectations in these times, as they are working a lot of hours, putting in extra duty, extra responsibilities to try and meet the demand. And we're also trying to make sure that they have the support and resources they need, as well as their families, to be at their highest level. Once again, a priority of the mayor and mine is around making sure that our officers are at their very best. And they're not at their very best when they're working multiple hours of overtime a week, when they're being stretched thin. We need them to be at their very best so that when they show up, they provide that level of service that Portlanders expect.
Has PPB been able to gather any video evidence of any of these 4 incidents, and are they still looking for video evidence right now?
I'm not aware of video evidence off the top of my head, but that's part of the investigation. Mike would have to follow up on that.
And Chief, is there anything maybe, and obviously like you said, we're on a big downward trend in terms of our gun violence numbers, but is there anything from this weekend that maybe gives you pause or lets your officers know that there's something we need to think about? I know one of these incidents occurred at an Airbnb rental, and some maybe occurred maybe in areas with more nightlife happening, and so does that kind of draw your attention a little bit? Or?
Yeah, we're constantly looking at the numbers regularly to look for patterns, look for trends, look for problem areas that maybe we can address more specifically. We're about crime reduction, not crime suppression. So although being able to suppress crime and maybe reduce those numbers is important, it's actually more important that we look at the root causes of crime in our community. So there's a combined approach here by PPB, one which is enforcement oriented, and that's where we look at the numbers and we try to make arrests and take sort of a traditional law enforcement approach. And then there's the holistic approach, looking at it as a system, working with, like I said, our community-based partners, working with our district attorney's office, working with our regional law enforcement partners, working with the mayor's office, and really trying to find an approach where we can address these issues systematically to maybe prevent future violence and future crime. So we're always looking at that, and whether it be in specific areas of parts of town or overall trends.
Is the department doing anything with the SNAP benefits being cut and everything? There's a lot of people that I've talked to that have somewhat of a fear that crimes, a lot more stealing and robbing and things of that nature are going to start happening because of this thing. Are you guys doing anything to counteract that?
Well, crime trends are fascinating, and Councilor Novick has touched on this a few times, and we're in agreement. They're pretty difficult to predict. If you look through our nation's history at times of both high crime, high reported crime, and low, it's really not so much tied to economic indicators and others. It's a lot broader than that. Couple of things that, we're certainly concerned and sensitive to the fact that we do know many Portlanders, many Oregonians will be experiencing that loss and the pressure that puts them under. We're hoping that they'll take advantage of the many robust efforts that are being made. We see, restaurants stepping up. We see generosity of Portlanders. The Portland Police Bureau is a proud partner with the Sunshine Division. This is a food distribution program that the Police Bureau has had for over 100 years, 102 years. I was down at their new facility down on the Northwest Waterfront. They did a groundbreaking today. They're not in that building yet. They're still out off of Stark in a couple of locations. But the Portland Police Sunshine Division, which there's a link to on our website, you can find information out about. You can go there, receive food benefits, a great box of food and so forth. And they also have clothing and other programs, and they will be doing a large outreach both here in November related to the holidays and then again in December. So PPB officers have access to that service as well. So if a PPB officer is on scene and recognizes the food shortage, they have an opportunity to go back to the precinct to get a box and deliver that on behalf of the city and the Police Bureau and the generosity of Portlanders.
Anything else?
Great.
All right.